again, listeners. I was looking at TV and thinking about these people that are, self-centered and everything. Me, what about me? Kind of thinking, that all these ideas are even in advertising and just in the culture, in general. But so I was looking at that, started looking at selfishness. I was looking up selfish, and some of the definitions are lacking consideration for others, concerned mainly with one's own personal profit or pleasure, concerned excessively or exclusively with one's self, seeking or concentrating on one's own advantage, pleasure, or well-being without regard for others. We're living in an age of selfishness. And I think they say times of crisis have been shown to increase our selfish behaviors. And it does seem, kind of seem like there has been an increase since the pandemic. I had a podcast episode on the danger of pride, and I was talking about King Nebuchadnezzar. Pride is, kind of that self-importance and self-focus, which leads to selfish thinking, and acting. But this kind of behavior is the opposite of what Jesus taught. I want to read John 13:34. A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. There Jesus was telling the disciples, to love each other as I have loved you. And this was that agape love. Agape was a Greek word, that this kind of means a selfless, unconditional love that is characterized by sacrifice and empathy. And that's what, Jesus was all about, Okay, now I'm going to read Matthew 16:24 and 25. Then said Jesus unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. Jesus was telling them, if you follow him, you have to give up, everything, and, take on hardships and persecution, and this is tough, but we must do it, to follow Jesus. And this makes selfishness a very serious sin, I was reading this one thing, it's kind of interesting. If you think about how serious selfishness is, looking at the 10 Commandments, honor your father and mother, it's selfish because, you think more of yourself than your parents. Thou shalt not murder, you would end somebody's life to benefit your own, Thou shalt not commit adultery. You would damage marriage, ruining other people's lives, The list goes on. You see the picture, but I think about 6 of the 10 Commandments involve selfishness, if you think about it. I want to look at some of the things Paul said about selfishness. I'm going to read Philippians 2:3 and 4. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, But in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. I think Paul's saying here, don't do things, out of selfish ambition, but in humility, just consider others, and not so much yourself, and we should not look at our own interests, but look into the interests of others. So being self-centered is, the exact opposite of caring, genuinely caring for others. Now I'm going to read Galatians 5:17 through 21. For the flesh lusteth against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. But if ye be led of the Spirit, ye are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, and heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Paul was telling the Galatians that, they couldn't live, in their desires of their sinful nature, and try to live, by the Spirit, because they were contrary to each other. They, were conflicting. And all those things he listed, you couldn't live like that and inherit the kingdom of God. Let's see what James says about it. I'm going to read James 3:13 through 15. Who is a wise man and endued with knowledge among you? Let him shew out of a good conversation his works with meekness of wisdom. But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not, and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. So I think James was asking who is wise and understanding, and let him show it by his good life and deeds, done in humility. But if you have envy and are selfish, don't boast about it or deny the truth. This is not from heaven, but from earth. It's not spiritual. It's of the devil. It's not humble, and it's not of God. Okay, now I'm going to read, I'm going to go back to the Old Testament and see what Solomon says in Proverbs. I'm going to do Proverbs 11:24 through 26. There is that scattereth and yet increaseth, and there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but if tendeth to poverty. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. He that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth it. Here I think Solomon was saying, basically, if you are generous, you will prosper. If you refresh others, you will be refreshed. Giving freely will, gain you more. And people don't really like selfish people. I can't help thinking that selfishness is the exact opposite of what Jesus taught. Jesus lived the exact opposite of it too, you know. We need to be more selfless, not selfish. We as humans will do some selfish things, but let's strive to be more selfless, like Jesus. Separate ourselves from the selfish ones and do more selfless acts. Maybe it will rub off on others, when they see it. Doing things for others makes you feel good, and it's what Jesus wants us to do. Let's try to help someone less fortunate than ourselves. I think that's always a good place to start. Okay, guys, that about does it this time. Until next time.